I'd also like to administer an oath or swearing in of anyone who's speaking before the commission today. If you would just raise your right hand. The information that you're going to provide before the Planning Commission is honest and truthful. All right, very good, thank you. Disposition of the August 18th minutes. Everybody should have those minutes.
So I'll move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
We have the first and a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. They have been adopted. Cases. We have two cases today. The first case that we have before us is case number 22-03. This is Title 41, University Estates Medical Office Building. And I am going to turn this over to Director Riggs.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the Planning Commission. This is the case for, I've got that wrong. It's supposed to be 14 University Estates Boulevard, so sorry about the typo. The applicant, Buckley Group, has provided some updated plans, and we have a few comments from the staff on those. I'll just go through those really quickly. Police asked for or suggested maybe some exterior wall lights in the back of the building. There are three doors back there. It doesn't seem to be any lighting, so that would be the sheet number 5 on in your package that shows the illumination plan. So just maybe suggest wall pack for security purposes in the back. Fire has a couple of comments. They need drivable access to at least 3 sides of the structure. Currently, there's only 2. They need to review the building and plumbing fire suppression plans. I know they're not done, but when they get complete, they're going to need to take a look at those and maybe comment on those. And we'd like to verify that the fire vehicles can get to the building from University Estates Boulevard. So we're asking that the applicant run a turning template across the site to make sure that they don't have to go over the curb or anything to get into the building. Engineering building had a few comments. They'd like to do a full field review of all the utility installations when those occur. They need some additional information on the backflow prevention details. Sanitary sewer manhole number 0 and number 1. We're asking for some additional details because this will be I believe, an external drop manhole. The way that they've got that designed. So if you look at sheet 106, there's a standard detail sheet for manhole, external drop manhole. We just need some inverts and elevations associated with that. We would like to see the post-construction stormwater quality calculations. Those are volume calculations needed for our permit, and some detail of the interior of the building. That way we could establish tap capacity fees for them. Then I actually asked for PDF format detailed floor plans when they're complete, and just a reminder that once they get approval from Title 41, then we'll have to get zoning, land development, signage, and curb cut permits. So those are the comments.
So along the lines of the comment about having access to 3 sides by the fire department, I'm kind of curious as to why the rear part of the building have those what I would call water detention ponds so close to the building.
My name is Quentin Kinsley with Buckley Group. So those were originally designed to collect stormwater and treat it per the stormwater quality regulations for the rear parking lot, which has since been removed because we discovered we didn't need as many parking spaces. But with the topography of the site, how it has such a steep slope going up, we kind of had to fit everything pretty tight behind there. And they still potentially want to put a parking lot back there in the future. So we didn't move those storm detention areas. They are lower. So the way it works is the overflow structure sits about a foot above the grade below, and then it's got a perforated tile that runs underneath and drains the water as it infiltrates into the ground. So it shouldn't pond more than that 1 foot above the rim elevation. So the building shouldn't be in danger of
Again, so it's because there's less excavation required by pushing them closer to the building as opposed to trying to moving less dirt,
and potentially
I guess.
fitting a parking lot in the future, yeah.
Okay. So I was worried about insects, mosquitoes, and, and having standing water there.
Right.
The idea of being, it makes it more challenging to get a fire truck back there or some kind of an emergency vehicle if for some reason it should be accessed from the rear as opposed to the front or something.
Right.
I don't know, just, I support the project. I think the project is a good project. I think it was part of the intent of the whole development as it was unfolding and it was approved by the city, but I just have a concern about that.
In terms of insects and things, I think the required drain time has to be more than 24 or 36 hours. It has to be able to detain for that long, but it also has to drain before 72. And usually you don't get mosquitoes beyond that, or before that time. So.
Director, go ahead.
Sure.
Director Riggs, when you talked about the fire engine or fire truck turning in off of UE Boulevard, is that to cut over the street, right?
Yes.
So why is that any different than the other medical building that's already there? Like at some point that was approved for a fire truck, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, so if you can imagine University Estates Boulevard, you're in the right 2 lanes, you want to turn, that's not a problem. It's when you turn into the parking lot again where we're going to see a problem.
Okay.
You might jump over the curb.
Okay, so it wasn't the main,
No.
it's once you get into the driveway.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We're just asking to show the turning radius on the plan set, provide a tree
Yep,
radius.
and I can do that.
Cool.
And for the fire truck access to 3 sides, I spoke to David about potentially adding like a gravel pad where that parking lot was going to be in the rear of the, just as access. Basically have a curb cut where the parking lot was going to be and have it be a gravel access, and maybe that would suffice.
Commissioner Stone?
Yeah, and to that point, it appears as though you're still doing the excavation behind.
Yep.
And you're getting some significant rock back there to do
Yep.
that, and that's to provide space for a future lot if desired
Yep.
in the future. What was the plan without doing the lot prior to this question about the fire truck access coming? Was it just going to be seeded with grass back there?
Yes,
Okay.
grass.
That's what it looked like, yeah.
An option that we would accept was what was done at the Visa gravel thing that might look kind of crappy and be difficult to maintain, or less good to maintain, would be the geogrid that you fill with soil and then grow grass in it. A couple of the locations in town where we need 3-sided access to, like a hotel, for instance, have those as a way that a fire truck, and as long as the curb is able to be traversed to get into that area. So that's another option from a landscaping perspective that might look better than a gravel access, as long as the truck can drive on it.
But still, one other question, won't those catch basins, those sticking a foot above the ground or so, be a problem for the trucks, the emergency vehicles to?
It's actually below where the fire trucks would pull in.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of tiered. If you look at the building pad, and then behind it would be a lower area where these 2 retention areas are, and then above that is that secondary parking, future parking grass area, and then it slopes up to existing.
That's what the trucks would get.
Other questions? Okay, hearing none. So are we going to vote on this today, given this memo that you sent, Mrs. Yours?
Yep.
an option would be to recommend approval contingent upon addressing all these concerns.
And my question to Clinton, is there anything in here that is not doable?
I don't think so. I'll talk to the owner about the pavers and versus gravel pad.
Sure.
What they'd prefer to do.
Some mechanism.
They were looking to cut costs on
Yeah.
asphalt pavement and everything, so I think it would be fine. But all the engineering things we can get, and obviously the architectural, the floor plan, details like that, that's not a problem.
Well, then I would move that we approve contingent upon the addressing the comments in the memorandum dated September 1st from the staff.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. It is unanimous. All right, thank you. Our next case today is case number 22-05. This is the proposed changes to code. Again, I'm going to turn this over to Director Riggs.
Thank you, Mayor and Planning Commission members again. I'm going to ask that we delay the review of these proposed changes. There's some additional information I want to provide, and I think it would be more convenient for everybody if we took all of these proposed changes to City Council at one time. And honestly, I just have not had the time to work on this. I should have it ready in the next few weeks. But if you could allow me to postpone this, and then I can get you some information that you can review and comment on.
Question, sir. Are there specific things that you want to share with the group that you think are probably good that in the interim we should review and form an opinion on, and things that you still intend to work on? Just kind of delineate those for the.
So if you look at the existing proposed changes, if you have any comments on those, I know we had one comment that I was gonna work on for the outdoor dining, but with respect to the renewable resources, if you have any more, so there's a lot of stuff in there, and I know it's a lot to look at. So if you have any comments back on any of that, please let me know. What I really would like to do is to provide the Planning Commission with another set of renewable resource options for primary uses of renewable resources on properties. So if I have a property and somebody wants to install a solar array, where would those best be located? I've had some thoughts about that. You want brownfield areas, old landfills would be great places for solar arrays. We want open space. We talked about the open space areas as far as zoning. Those would be preferred locations for these larger solar arrays. A place where I would not recommend the placement of large solar arrays would be in our M zones and maybe some of our business zones. That use, that we don't have a lot of M zones, that's very valuable property to the city. It returns a great return on investment when people develop that. So we really wouldn't want to take away that potential income from the city by putting solar arrays up there. You don't get any income tax from solar arrays. You do from people that are working in the city. So what I'd like to do is a grid of preferred and non-preferred locations for these renewable resources.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's really forward thinking. I also would not want to impede, let's say, a developable space, some companies moving in, going to provide X number of jobs, but also allowing them to build up on top of that a larger scale. I mean, if we had a large facility, I'll use Lowe's as an example, or Menards, that would be a substantial solar array if there were something that were roof-mounted solar arrays. So I mean, I wouldn't want to impede something like that, but I hear what you're saying.
Right.
To take.
So that would actually fall into this first section that you already have in your hands, because that already has a primary use. The Lowe's building, for instance, this would be a secondary use for it, and it would fall into those proposed zoning changes that you already have in your hands.
Great.
As an accessory structure.
Accessory structures, yes,
Sure,
sir.
but your point is the primary use and having a different section of code where the primary use of the land is for that and nothing else.
Renewable resources and nothing else. Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So the one question, so if, do these, and there's a question just to see if anybody has any kind of an answer. Do these solar arrays have a lot of weight to them? Or, you know, I guess the question is, would they alter the the engineering of a building and require a more hefty load-bearing capacity?
Yeah, that's possible. There's also wind, impact of winds, because wind can
Yeah.
get underneath there and pull on the roof material where that's not the standard design for a roof structure.
So I would say that we ought to try to do something in the code that would encourage a developer to look at that up front, even if they choose not to do it initially, to at least think about the idea of how, what kind of an impact that might have if they chose to do it down the road. Because I feel like there'll be more and more people like Lowe's or Menards or Walmart or others who may want to try to do that, and we should try to encourage them, I think, to set themselves up for success with regard to that as much as possible.
So when we've looked at it for our building, I know there's warranties on those panels, and they're not going to install it on a structure that's not going to be sturdy, because they, kind of like a roof, when you have a 10-year warranty, they're going to make sure that that roof can maintain the 10 years. And so from my experience, the solar company you'd be buying it for would do that work to make sure that it's a stable structure.
They
I'm just saying, I don't know if
absolutely
we need to get involved in that versus, you know what I mean, the installation company is going to make sure that this is a
And
secure building.
supporting what you're saying, you know, I was on the Rural Action Board for a while, and we put solar on their building there in the Plains. And the solar companies come in and they do make sure, you know, this was an old house, they had a lot of timber structure to it, and they, you know, they did a lot of examination. And it turned out it was able to support it, you know, so it didn't add incredible amounts of weight, but it was put directly on the pitch of the roof as opposed to supported by other pieces. And I don't know that we should do a lot. We should just try to make people aware of it and actually encourage them to look at that as a possibility. And even if they choose not to, hopefully set themselves up to be able to do it and not preclude it in the future. That's all I was interested in.
So, to take that a step further, John, do you think that, so our Title 41 site plan review kicks in when a building is over 5,000 square feet?
Okay.
Would you think a change to code that said that, I don't know, solar ready, or, the live load for a roof has to include the ability to carry a solar array for buildings greater than 5,000 square feet? And then we just stick that in there, and then they don't have to necessarily build it
Right.
when they build a building, but
Right.
that they would have to somehow demonstrate that the live load bearing capacity would support that in the future.
I would think that would be a good way to do it. You know, and then they can argue that it's gonna blow the project right out of the water because it's too expensive, and you can, you know, make an exception or do whatever you need to do if you really want to encourage that piece of development to happen. I think, yeah.
So maybe it's required for greater than 5,000 square feet. The applicant could make a case for why they can't do it to the
Yeah.
planning commission, because planning commission's reviewing it anyway, if it's greater than 5,000 square feet. So perhaps that might be the way that we do it. We just stick that modification in Title 41.
I can do that.
I'm fine with delaying this, tabling the case, or at least moving it out a couple of weeks.
I'm with you too. I support that as well. I want to make sure that we do as good a job as we can. David and I talked a little bit before, and I'm pretty meticulous. I would want it perfect when I submitted it, but knowing it can't be perfect, but I encourage him to take more time if he feels like he needs more time. I really do. So.
Thank you.
So I don't think we need to vote to table. I mean, we'll just hold this off until the next planning commission meeting, or whenever you claim you're ready to bring that forward. Wonderful. Okay, we have no communications today. Report from the Director of Development and Code Enforcement.
I don't think I have any, well, there may be one thing I might want to suggest to the commission, and I don't know if it'll go through you guys or not, but we've been into had some issues on Longview with the right-of-way, and might be appropriate to actually define what that right-of-way is. And I'll do some research to see if that actually needs to go through the Planning Commission or how that would get accomplished. But that road doesn't seem to have a very well defined road width for the right-of-way there. And it makes a lot of confusion for the residents. And I'd really like to see some defined width for that road that the city would be maintaining. I think that's all I got.
Great.
Is that in reference to the trees and limbs that came down recently?
Yeah, this is an interesting road where it was originally outside of the city, and it was probably designed and constructed early 1800s, maybe even earlier than that. It was Old County Road 83, and the date that it was established defines the width of that county road, but it's never been fully defined anywhere that I can find. So we have a road that has a right-of-way, prescriptive easement right-of-way, but we don't know what the width of it is.
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you. Opportunity for citizens to speak on items not covered on the agenda. We have one individual here with us today, and Rob Dulac is saying, no, I have nothing to share. Announcements and other business. Our next meeting will be September 15th here in Council Chambers at noon. And other than that, any other announcements from any of the commissioners? Hearing none. This meeting is adjourned.